right, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Ekta Kapoor in conversation with Mr. Barundas. This is Duologue on stage with Ekta Kapoor, the original gangster of primetime television, ladies and gentlemen, the trendsetter, Ekta Kapoor, right here in person. Thank you so much, Ekta, for flying in all the way from India. Pleasure having you here with us this evening. Mr. Das, it's over to you.
Welcome to News 9 Global Summit, Ekta. Great to see you again.
Lovely to be here.
I start off with this. 1981, there's a movie which was released, Kalia. 5 gentlemen wrote the script. Indira Rajanand, Tinu Anand, Santosh Shah, Shah Jahan, and Tahir. It's a great movie. I loved it those days. But one of the dialogues in that movie said by Mr. Bachchan, it goes like this again with apology, with my bong accent. हम जहाँ खड़े होते हैं, line वहीं से शुरू होती है. Now, I wanted to be inspired by this line all through my life. In fact, in one of my communications to my team, I've said that this is how we set the trend. But if I have to think of one person who has lived this line all through her life, which would be Ekta Kapoor. And you can see...
Sorry to interrupt you, sir, but that line is only for one person, and that is Shri Amitabh Bachchan.
Yeah, on big screen, yes, but beyond big screen in life, we have many other things, especially being a professional, being a woman professional. I think you've said all the trends. So
Thank you so much. Heart touched.
Therefore, you can safely say that मैं जहाँ खड़ी होती हूँ, line वहीं से शुरू होता है. Well, you have been a non-conformist all through your life. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If I start listing down what all you have done in your life, it'll take me the whole evening. You've always led the change. At 15, you started working, right? At 19, you turned an entrepreneur. And innumerable milestones, achievements. You've been the Emmys Directorate Award, and who all the names come along with your name. Spielberg, there's Oprah. There's nothing left, possibly.
I don't know what to say.
Okay, I'll tell you. Now I come to the questions. How do you take your guard? When you set out to do something like that at that tender age when you started as an entrepreneur, how do you look ahead? I often believe that you need to visualize the success. But what would be in your case? How do you start? Do you recall?
So I think it's all, I learned through the way, but if you ask me instinctively how I started or how I start a project, it all comes from the gut. You see, I actually believe in your inner voice that tells you this is the way forward. It could be something you just feel and you can't sleep without expressing it. But as years have passed by, I have realized that you need to back it with some calculated risks. Because as we get older, we get more cynical. And we don't have that euphoric way to begin without taking into consideration all the other responsibilities that come. So what I would do when I had started would be just rely on gut. Today I take my gut, my experience, and back it with a certain amount of calculated risk-taking.
Right. So at 19, turning an entrepreneur at 19 and trying to do something completely new. It wasn't a very organized business those days. Who was the guiding force behind you, or you were driving it yourself?
So I think my dad started a company called Dolphin Telefilms, and he had a partner. And my dad told me, you should make content. You love television. And I'm going to give you 2 options. Either you start working or you get married. And I definitely didn't want to get married, so I started to work. I said, because sitting at home and doing nothing, I'm not going to pay your bills. You need to pay your own bills, which was shocking because my dad loves me. But it was his way of saying that I need you to work. And he started this company, and his partner turned around and told him, are you trying to set up your daughter? Because clearly you look like you want to give her a job. That's why you're starting this company. And that hit me hard. I was like, I told my dad, I said, why are you doing this? You think I can do it? He said, see, I have to, invest in you. Either I put money behind you, either I put belief behind you, or either put something behind you. And now currently my partner doesn't want to put money, so my belief is there. And there is very little money. Can you do this? I was like, but this is, and we were not in a situation wherein we had money to splurge. He was going through his fag end of his career. And I realized that my father believed in me, and there's no bigger motivation than belief. And he told me, as long as you've tried, I'm okay if you fail. And I started making a show called Hum Panch. And I went to Siddhivinayak and kept that pilot in ZTV's office. And I said, I put my best foot forward. The rest I leave to God. And I came back home. And in exactly 1 hour, I got a call. And that changed my life. And life took a huge turn.
So basically what you're saying, that you needed an inspiration, which is your dad. He believed in you. You decided that you would live up to his belief and confidence in you.
So, it was so simple because the person who had put money in his company had decided to do 5 ideas and none of them worked. And I decided at the end that, Dad, your money is also stuck. Let us do one idea we believe in, and that turned it all around.
So a few ones before that didn't do that well, right? First 6 or 7 pilots that you had made, there was no takers.
So I guess that's journey, like Sir was speaking about. You give one hit film and then suddenly for 3 years you're home. And I had those many years where people were like, okay, this is because of your dad. You had to constantly reproving yourself till people took you seriously.
Yeah, you can say this amongst very few people. At the age of 25, listed your company. A lot of us who passed out from premier institutes in our country, at 25, we're still figuring out which job shall we join. And you not only had set up a company, you went ahead and listed it.
So actually, at 19, when my first show that went on air became India's #1 show, I was like, I thought I had taken off. And then I sat at home for 3 years because nobody gave me a chance again to do drama. And then I went and made a South Indian show that worked very well. When I actually shared the ratings with Sameer Nair, he said, who is writing this show? It's a non-primetime show that is getting primetime ratings. I said, we are at Balaji in Bombay. We are writing a South Indian show because no one in Bombay thinks we can do drama.
Wow, that's a revelation, yes.
And that's when we got Kyonki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi.
Right, brilliant story. And while if I start talking about your success milestones, as I said, that we'll take the whole evening, let's branch out to a few other aspects of your life where you have really, really set trends. Controversies have never left you, right? Temperamental spat, FIRs against you, single motherhood, glorification of negativity, hyping of superstition. How did you deal with them?
Nonchalantly. I don't take anything seriously. But if you have to ask me to answer each one, I don't mind.
Yeah, why not some of them which you love to talk about?
So, I don't think what people call superstition is my belief. I believe that there is an unknown sign called astrology. And now many more people believe in it. So like I said, I don't judge anyone who doesn't believe in it. And I don't expect people to be judgmental of people who do. That's what an inclusive world is. Not to sit on a judgment chair for another person. As far as making content that is saying causes negativity, I think content is all spheres of humanity, and negativity is also a primal emotion. And unless you address it, you can't fight it. And therefore, you will have to have all kinds of emotions covered in your content. I think it's pretty myopic if people can only see the negativity.
Well, what you're pretty much saying that you had a good reason to do everything that you have done, and you thought that what you think of me is your problem, not my problem.
I run a company. I'm answerable to various employees and investors, and I have the ability to create content that makes a difference. And I wear all three hats simultaneously. Someone somewhere may not agree with me, but I do my job with what I believe is with full conviction and full effort. And that's all I can do.
Great learning for all of us, Ekta, in this. So let's move to adversities from there. That's another aspect of your life, had always been. But what you've done, you've actually truly lived up to that saying that life would always knock you down. How successful you are depends on how many times you get up and start running again. So you started the company at 19. After the first initial upswing, you had a lull for some time. Then you had a 21 hump punch. Then you started rising again. 2008, again, you had a downfall. So you stood up and fought every time. So where did the spirit come from, that indomitable spirit?
I think inspiration comes from I do nothing else to do. I mean, I don't know how to live my life. I couldn't create hobbies. I started working very young. I just want to be working because this is where I find solace and my individuality and my expression. So there is no other way to but to start again because I have no other option. I never cultivated it. I never worked for only money. I worked because this is where I found my calling. So, unfortunately or fortunately, I just can't fly away to Switzerland and do a ski trip. I find that holiday feeling at my office. So, I just put my head down and keep working. And some years go good, some years go bad. I just hope that I have enough work for the coming year and I move forward.
Brilliant. Once again, very nice, very well said. And you have also made no effort to sort of conceal things which can be viewed as judgmental. Your anxiety issue, which you have been very vocal about, you expressed that and you have handled it.
Anger issues, you mean?
Yeah. Well, the two sides of the same coin, maybe.
Yes, true. Riddhi, would you want to say something to that? All my friends, all the people who know me, know that I'm extremely reactive. And I've tried my best in the years as I've gone older to fight it. And to a great deal, I have. I think I'm no longer the person I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I feel that's where I have, that's where my personal evolution is. And I keep aiming for it. 80% I've overcome it. 20% I still feel there is scope for improvement that I do and try every day. So this is like an ongoing fight with myself. But I think it's a flaw.
No, I think everyone is flawed that way. But I'm saying, so the inner re-engineering, you did it yourself. But who helped you realize that you need to change? You yourself?
As in, who make me realize
Who
that
helped you to realize that you need to change? That's your own self?
So I think it's all the people who come into your life who are friends or family or your child or your peers or your colleagues who in different times say that this is something we can't tolerate in you. And if you want to maintain that relationship
So
of
there are
friendship,
people who came up to you and gave you that
yeah,
feedback.
yeah. And I'm eternally grateful to them.
Right.
Because without them, there would not be an updated version of me.
Wonderful. Thus, you living that that principle that leaders doesn't need sycophants around. They rather need somebody who'd come and tell them that what's wrong in them.
I think you would agree that none of us would want to be the smartest people in the room, at least in our offices. We rather have people who are smarter than us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Find out people who are smarter than you and then let them work. I think one of the biggest adversities that you've faced, which is what I feel, maybe I'm completely wrong, that being a woman who is yet an achiever, was that not an adversity that came across you all through your life, all through your professional career?
As in-
Being a woman and yet being
I think
successful.
being a woman, I won't call it an adversity. And this was something once somebody had once told me that in spite of being a woman, you're so successful. And I told them that because I'm a woman, I've done well for myself. Because who knows better that women have a natural combative element in them? We fight for everything. From the way we look, to what we wear, to how people perceive us, to where we go, to if we'll get even space in the room to speak. So every day we become stronger. And I think that strength we don't even know. So when we had to multitask and we have to do 5 things at one time, it comes naturally. My mom, I'd like to say this because this is something very few people know, is probably the best person in production in India. Like her, there are only 2 other production heads who match up. One is Vikramaditya Motwani's mother, who is probably one of the best in production, and one is, I think, Mohit Suri's aunt. I don't remember their names, but I know the 3 of them because these women know production better than any male production head. And why is that? Because my mom, and I asked her, I said, why did you know production so well when you didn't even get training in production? She said, every day I made the budget of my house. And when you learn to make a budget, you know where you can negotiate, where you can cut. This instinct she had developed. Therefore, I think women in making budgets or setting up production budgets, she got it naturally. So like these are combative elements in women. That's why I always say, I think most of my success is because I'm a woman.
Well, very well said. While I agree with you, I have a slightly different take here, maybe a perspective. I definitely know that women have to really fight hard. That's because I believe that collectively they were not given their fair share. And my take on this is that, we started with the Stone Age where men used to go out and hunt and earn livelihood for the family. Women looked after the family. But those era was of brutal force. We had to go out and hunt. But the world has moved, and I've said that in many of my shows, and I keep saying that the world has moved from a physical strength-driven ruling to a mental strength-driven ruling. And there I feel that women definitely score higher than men because the emotional quotient of women, whether they do maths or they do creative calls, naturally should be higher. And therefore men definitely want to have a higher upper hand, and therefore they make sure that the women don't get their fair share. So that I believe, and that's what I hold you with such huge respect, that what you've done in a male-dominated industry is something that will inspire not only women, that should inspire all the men as well. So that's my take on this. Now I come to another part, Ekta the enigma.
Another?
Enigma. Well, what I mean by my own definition of enigma here in this context is that you swung both extreme, right? On one end, you're a fantastic creative person, you're the creative goddess. On the other extreme, you're a sharp strategist. So they are 2 completely opposite polarity. I would seldom find another person who would be equally adept and equally competent in both these aspects. So which one is Ekta? Is she the creative goddess or she's the sharp strategist? Which is your real self?
I honestly think I'm both. Once a friend of mine told me, I think above everything else, I'm very self aware. I think that is my strength. It also sometimes puts me back, but that's where I think. So I don't believe creativity without the economics makes sense unless you work it out in a way. Because I was just telling a friend of mine yesterday that I think creativity for me means that there is an it should set up a commerce, it should set up a gateway for a lot of other creators to create better content. It cannot be limiting, and it becomes limiting if there's no commerce and no commercial viability attached to it. And this is my belief. At the same time, if I believe on in a piece of content and I believe that this will not work, I don't not make it. I make it with padding it with content which I believe will carry this maybe gem of a piece of, it may not be entertaining, it may be something I really want to say, but I will pad it with very, very commercial content. And that's what I did. So I remember there was this year when I made Urta Punjab. People asked me, how did you finance Urta Punjab when a whole industry was not willing to pick up the film? I said, I never financed Urta Punjab. Ye hai Mohabbatein did. I said, when Ye hai Mohabbatein did well, channels were willing to buy content from me. And I said, okay, this is my chance to back an Urta Punjab.
Excellent. You know why it is unique? Once again, I think a creator, I believe that when somebody writes a song, somebody draws a picture, the creative art, it's not really doing, it's an expression of feelings. So for instance, if I ask a fantastic a poet to write a poetry which will be sellable, his creativity won't flow. So therefore, usually what's done is that somebody else has to be there who would make commerce out of creativity. The kind of role that I play in profession. But that's where you are unique. Like you have contributed the hum punch and in those days hum punch, right? Some 25, 30 years back.
30 years.
30 years back. So you had that creative zeal in you, you had that creative pulse, you know what works, what doesn't work, and at the same time you have that bent of mind where you're a strategist. I mean, you were just talking to me about 75 IPs, film IPs that you created. I can tell you for sure that very few people in this country had been thinking IPs. One of the drawbacks that our industry has, media and entertainment industry, that we haven't created IPs.
So, we're in a business, like I was telling you, sir, earlier, that we need to incubate the employees that work in Balaji and the investors that invest in Balaji from the changing technologies that change the type of content that is consumed every few years. That's why we work in a very portfolio setup kind of model, wherein we have some B2B businesses, some B2C businesses, some businesses, as in some part of Balaji works on volume production, wherein we just work on getting our 20% margin, and some part of it works on building IPs with high impact content, because there we will find value creation. So we work because we know that some years we might have to face, and that's why we have a very, very clear portfolio model. Without putting all our eggs in one basket, we try to incubate the company from all the different changing mediums and see that we can always be in the running. So we have a digital arm, we have a digital arm that produces for outside companies, we have an app, we have a television production arm, and we have a film IP creation arm or a film production company. We sometimes work like a studio, we sometimes work like a producer, and that's how we keep alive, one, the brand Balaji, two, we keep our employees incubated, because this is my biggest responsibility.
Excellent. That's, again, you distributed your risk all across, much like the private equity model, where you really do not know what's going to work, what's not going to work. So you play on the 80-20, even 20% gives you return, you're running away to the bank. Um, you talked about creating content. Did you ever face that dilemma while you were working on content? That's a dilemma that I keep facing. That what's right and what will work. In terms of content creators, willy-nilly, we would have some sense of responsibility, be it in the news industry, be it in the content industry. A responsible citizen would always think the kind of effect that content can make. So did you ever face that dilemma?
Of course, it's something that with us, it stays with you all the time. So, do I make content that is not something my conscience allows? No, I don't. Balaji has made family content, it's been called regressive. Alt has made sexual content that has been called overtly damaging to the society. But when very few people know this, that when I was running Alt, and I was running it for a very short time, till we had 500 cases on me, we saw to it that we had 8 to 10 women who had the content. And I had put these young girls on the job. I said, you know what? Legal will check the legal part. You check the ethical part. And I still remember there was something that Netflix had put up, a beautiful show. And we decided to do something similar and we got panned for it. And these girls were like, I think there's a problem here because we're creating it. We're Indian, we're women, we're not supposed to create content that's sexual. And at that time, I remember I told these girls, I said, I might not be able to do this business for long because I can't take any more cases. But I'm really hoping in a few years, women and the country itself and people like you and me are able to differentiate between sex and sexual crime. We're so consumed with what is wrong. Sex is not the problem, sexual crime is. So if tomorrow I have a scene where Eve teasing is okay, that's a crime. And if I have two people consensually, adults, kiss, that is not a crime. Unfortunately, we are completely confused about these issues. And I'm hoping in the next few years, we're able to see prohibition is not the way forward. Consent is.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I think we are rightly or wrongly oversensitive about it. We are a mature society, and especially when you pay for certain content that's not available free.
It's not even about right and wrong. It's about women being told that you can't do this. Because I always feel that it's right and wrong. You're a bad girl because you don't fit in. This is the good girl problem. You're a good girl if you are not drinking, not smoking. I don't drink and smoke. But I will never think another girl is bad if she does. That imaging is a problem.
Yeah, in fact, that's a discussion, that is subject very close to my heart, which I don't want to do on stage. At some point in time, we'll take that up. But I understand the dilemma that you're facing and the restlessness that you have in your mind. At least there are two in this room, in this hall, would have the same feelings. Well, now coming back to content, do you see there's a tectonic shift in the way content is consumed and therefore the way content is produced because of this proliferation of OTT?
See, OTT is here to stay. I feel we are a very large population. The world is huge and we're not a one size fits all. There is going to be different content that works for different people. TV is habit creation and it works for people who want comfort in content. The OTT works for a lot of the urban masses, wherein more than comfort, they want excitement and they want exploration through content. Content is so many things for people. It's exploration, it's identification, it's sometimes escapism. And therefore, different mediums will provide you different forms of content. Somebody like me would not want to get attached to any one show for more than 8 episodes, while there's somebody like my mom who wants to see the same show for the last 5 years. So different mediums will provide content for different people. And I think while there is going to be overlapping, I don't think anything will eat each other's market.
Yes, so that's true. So, what did you see the fate of box office with the advent of or the proliferation of OTT? Will it going to help box office?
Just in the last few years, while we've seen that OTT has changed the way box office is getting its numbers and is consumed, you haven't had 500 crore, 1000 crore films before this. You have it now. And yet you don't have so many flops as you had earlier. That's because you need to create content that is for the theaters now. And it has to be something you will be willing to pay for. So that way, content in theaters has changed. But would people still watch the content that is intimate and sweet? Yes. But they now watch it in another medium. It gives content providers actually now a choice to decide where they want to put their content.
Absolutely. And I often say that as an example, I think the relation between the OTT and box office, they will continue to coexist. It's something like your home kitchen and restaurant outside. You go for exotic stuff, for experience to eat out, but every day you need your own preferred food at home. So that's
If
the
we are
same.
talking about the OG restaurant business or anything, we should talk about Sunil sir here. If he thinks that we sort of mentored him, you have mentored me so much for the way you have grown as an entrepreneur. I keep following how you have built your businesses, sir. Big, big salute to you.
So she must be that Ekalavya. You haven't taught her. but
Always your Eklavya, sir.
She learned it from looking at you, being inspired by you. Well, well, when you talk about content creation, I would just have one more question in this. I always wanted to ask you that. How do you approach creating of a content? When you think about launching a new show, or when you think about launching a new or producing a new film, in business it's very easy. I mean, you are a businesswoman too, but when somebody wants to start a new business, we say that there are two things: either one or both you can leverage. Either you can leverage your competence, or you leverage an opportunity which the market offers. It's very cut and dried, possibly easier. So when you think of a content, what goes on in your mind while you decide on a choice of a content?
See, I think the economics follow, but if you ask me when I start, how do I start? Then either I leverage my own competence or I leverage someone else's. So either I'm allying with a creator who I believe in, or I create the content if I feel I'm the right person to create this, and this is my core competency. Business will follow. You cannot start knowing the business because that is
No,
the wrong
that
way
I
to
said in the business context. So I wanted to ask, like, for instance, you have a theme in your mind and you want to build a content or you create a content on that?
So if I have a theme in my mind and I feel that it is a great TV theme and this is what I know how to do best, then I create it. But if I feel this is a great theme, but I don't think I'm the right person to make it, then I wear the hat of a studio. Like I thought when I was trying to do this collab with Guneet, I told her, I said, I want to make something like this. And then Puglet was her idea. But I collaborated with her on that because I was like, I won't be able to make a Puglet. But you will. So I'll collaborate with you. And that's how we began the journey. So like I said, it has to be, if it's my core competency and that idea, I think I can make it, then I will. Or I will go to somebody. Like I have partnered with great creators too.
Right. So it's a concept which drives you first, that you incubate a concept, whether yourself or outside. Now, you spoke about OTT. Alt Balaji, Alt is possibly one of the very few Indian OTT platforms which are doing well, and you just shared with me that you've turned profitable also. So how did that happen? How did the journey happen? How did you think about getting into that? 2017, possibly Alt was launched?
2017 we started Alt, and in about so I think we had really bad years in 2021, 2022, 2023, and then we've had a minor turnaround in the last few months. I think it's a lot of like understanding of how much you're earning vis-a-vis how much you're spending, and working towards seeing that you're buoyant and you stay above ground, because we lost a lot of money, and unfortunately it took us a lot of setbacks to realize how to turn it around, and now hopefully it's getting out of the red into the green, so fingers crossed.
Well done. But does it really, you had to compromise on the size, you know? If you take about Netflix worldwide, while we spoke in terms of valuation, there'd be, I think, 17th or 18th most valuable company in the world, but they started making profit only recently. They must have been in business for about 20 years. So they had the depth in their pocket. So they kept on investing. Because our group also has that Telugu app, OTT app called AHA. So obviously, for an Indian entrepreneur, we get a little jittery when you continue to make loss and your other businesses funding that losses. And therefore, we try to, in the quest for a quick break even, so we compromise and we start cutting corners. So the size of the business diminishes. Did it happen to you? While you turned profitable, did your business size diminish?
Yes, because we've seen so many of these really big entrepreneurs who have led their company out of ego and not been able to downsize when you realize that the company is sinking. You have to understand that, okay, I can't be competing with the big boys in this business, because at this point, my runway of cash burn is only this much. At this point, I will be turning bankrupt. And I need to see that that doesn't happen, because I'm also taking in the investors' money and playing with it. If I don't understand that this is the point where I have to now downsize, this is the point where I have to now realign my expectations of the business with the spends, and then try to earn profits, and then put those profits back, and then make the company grow. And so this happens in every entrepreneur's life, and it must be because while we operating on a global level, we still were promoters who were a mid-cap company, running a mid-cap company, and we did not have the financial leeway to build a value-based company in a company with the profitability of the television business. And we had to see that this business survives on its own. So there was a little bit of humbling and a little bit of eating a humble pie. And then it was putting your socks up, pulling your socks up, and going out there, doing the heavy lifting, and turning the company around. And saying, okay, this is our pool, we play here, and we play with the same money that we earn, and we go green.
Right, with tough decision, but I feel watching it from outside as an industry watcher, I think collectively the OTT industry could have done better in terms of their pricing. I think at that price you're giving away, and therefore you're killing each other. While if the whole industry wakes up and takes a relook at the pricing, I'm sure that things will get much better. One pricing, and then you have this B2B subscription offers. So if people are losing trust in a subscription-driven model.
I agree with you, but till that happens, we would have to survive, and I hope
I understand
good
that.
sense prevails.
Right, last but not the least, Ekta, what's next? What's keeping you running still? What are you trying to arrive at? What's your next target? What's your next
I
big
think it's
goal?
going to be movies, building IPs, and bringing back one of my OG shows, which I'm not officially allowed to speak about.
Okay.
But let's hope for that.
Right, so there's a lot up your sleeves yet. Well, Ekta, I think you created the original K drama in India. And now the world has another K phenomenon, which is a Korean drama. And India, we're still hoping that we would create another set of K phenomenon in the world arena. And if one person in the industry was capable to fulfill that dream, to my mind, it will be Ekta. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You want any questions from anyone? No? Fine.
Well, maybe just a few. If anybody's got a... Sakshi, not again. I'll have to give somebody else a chance first. Is there anybody else who would like to ask a question of Ekta Kapoor or Barundas? Please raise your hands. Otherwise, Sakshi, okay, let's go to you. Sure. Can we have a mic for Sakshi, please? Faster, faster, faster. Guys are hungry.
I'd also like to add, there's Riddhi here who has just done a superb show for us called Kul. Yes. And I was so happy to see her here in the...
Sakshi, go ahead.
Hi Ekta, this is Sakshi. I know you have not spoken about some of your OGs coming back, but we did see the picture that you've posted with Mrs. Smriti Irani. And I have watched a lot of your shows.
Ooh, and especially the price tag that goes with it.
Back then we used to see a lot of Gharelu women, the domestic women. Nowadays we look at you venturing out to the OTT platform, we are looking at more of the modern and bold women. So the concept in your shows has slightly changed. So are we going to look at, Tulsi Virani, but the modern version?
And is Mihir going to live a little longer?
I just want to say that it's the modernity of a woman is not about how she wears her clothes. So Tulsi is going to be extremely modern, but she's still going to wear a sari because that's her favorite form of clothing. And I think she's as conservative, as modern as any of us are. She is a all-involving woman, and I don't know if ever I brought Kyonki back, I would definitely make Tulsi talk about the most essential thing about women today, and that is parenting in times where you multitasking like this. So I'm not saying that we'll ever get the show back, but if it ever did, Tulsi will change the way she looks at parenting.
All right. Thank you so much for answering that question.
Okay, we also
Vineet
have a question.
also has a question.
We also have a question. Thanks, Sakshi.
सबसे पहले मैं बधाई देना चाहता हूँ. You are like a book. किसी को पहले आपके ऊपर एक किताब लिखनी चाहिए because it's full of inspiration. 18-19 साल की उम्र में जहाँ बच्चे ये सोचते हैं कि ज़िंदगी में करना क्या है, वहाँ आपने रास्ते तय कर दिए. तो बहुत बड़ी चीज़ है और समय के साथ इवॉल्व होते चले गए. हम लोगों ने देखा है. मेरा सवाल ये है कि ऐसा क्यों होता है कि जब हम कोई कहानियाँ लेके जाते हैं अपनी कंट्री में, IPs पूरी चली जाती है. It's very difficult to hold the IPs. Like, I'm trying to do something with my show, जिसे मैंने बनाया, हर तरीके से आगे लेके जाना चाहता हूँ. But stage 1, step 1, you have to sign on a paper, जहाँ 100% IP आपके पास, वहाँ 0.01% भी मेरा नहीं होता. क्या करूं, कैसे करूं, कैसे
मैं आपको ये तो एक बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है. मैंने खुद अपने IPs अपने यूथ में छोड़ दिए बिकॉज उस वक्त मेरे पास कंपनी बनाने के लिए पैसे चाहिए थे और वो उस वक्त पे we needed the cash to run the business and make more shows. तो ये तो मुझे आज भी रिग्रेट मेरे ज़िंदगी में है कि मैंने ये किया. बट सर मैं आपको ऑनेस्ट बात करूं, बिगिनर्स स्पेशली इफ यू आर न्यू इन द बिजनेस, IP आप होल्ड करोगे और आपका शो ना बने से अच्छा है आप IP दे दो और बना लो. बिकॉज उसके बाद जब आपका कंटेंट लोग देखेंगे तो आगे की IPs आप रख पाओगे. और I know I would love to give you a better answer, but unfortunately सच्चाई यही है, जब हम यंग होते हैं तो थोड़ी बहुत एक्सप्लॉयटेशन ज़्यादा होती है.
So she's basically saying if you have a lot of money, hold back the IP. If you don't have, let IP make some money to start with and then you hold back your IP.
So I took my money from TV to build my IPs in films.
In films, yeah.
And that time I did give up a lot of gold IPs of mine, but then it helped me build these IPs in films.
Udta Punjab was brilliant example.
हाँ जी.
Udta Punjab was amazing example.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Ekta, I have one question for you, if you'll indulge me, and I really want to understand how disruptive is artificial intelligence and how much of that are you using in the new productions that you're
There's
undertaking?
my friend here called Chetan. He's now
Hi,
running
Chetan.
our AI department. We're now going to create AI stories. AI is going to make creators grow exponentially.
Grow exponentially or
Yes.
go exponentially?
Grow.
Okay, that's good to hear. I think
It's like
as long
saying
as
that having all the information on Google took away your brains. They didn't. It's going to be a calculator. It'll never be able to survive without the human mind, because empathy, sympathy, it's going to be trying to understand. You cannot be able to create that, but it will give you wings to fly as far as visualization goes.